Hello, everyone. This is Ed K. Smith, the co-host of the Asset Show, here with the other lovely co-host, Mr. Rob K. How are you, Rob?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Excellent. See, I called you lovely, mate. I don't know why, but I just did.
No one's ever done that before.
There you go. There we go. And we have a couple of guests on the show today, which is a new thing for us. We normally just have one person on as a guest. So we've got two people. We are blessed to have Lisa Chikarovski, who is the head of media and comms. Hello, Lisa, of TCG World, which we will go into what TCG World is in a second. And Jase Falkenburg, who is the chief gaming officer of TCG
G'day, everyone.
World. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Fantastic.
Thanks for having us on.
So Rob and I were at the Australian Crypto Convention a few weeks back on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. And we were fortunate enough to meet Lisa and had a chat with her and invited her to come on the show. She's also said, well, Jase is a legend in the gaming space. So he has to come on too.
So nice.
And as I mean, look, you can tell that Jase is a bit of a gamer because he's got the gaming chair, he's got the full, virtual world background going on there with his TCG World banner. So, he's really, and the proper headset with the mic. So look, he's really, he's living the dream.
I'm all set, ready to go. Let's take this off.
That's it. Where's the studio?
Because I did the hair and makeup. So.
That's good. Rob and I just rolled out of bed literally 5 minutes ago. So it's all good. So now I would like to first off start off. We're gonna get into what is TCG World in a sec. A little bit of a short background on each of you before we get into it, starting with Lisa. So Lisa, as we said, your title is head of media and comms or communications. So how in this world did you get involved with the virtual world, and how did you sort of get into the TCG world space?
Yeah, look, I actually first started working with blockchain companies about 5 years ago, and I was doing a similar type of role, so media and comms, and it's really interesting to see how media in particular has changed over that past 5 years. I mean, I had to push trucks uphill to even get any coverage for these blockchain companies. Nobody understood it. The people who were trying to explain it didn't explain it very well either because it was way too techy. Since then, 5 years on, now there's obviously overwhelming interest in blockchain, crypto, and metaverses, which we're here to talk about today. And I guess for me, TCG World was one of the more exciting projects because instead of having an attitude of let's hype this up and then build something, the team's been really focusing on building the product out first. And then, that kind of field of dreams thing, if you build something really good, you're going to naturally attract people to it anyway. And I think that sort of business strategy in this new world where crypto, Web3, metaverses have all become a lot more popular and becoming more mainstream was what really attracted me to the roles.
Awesome. Cool. So, and you've been doing it for how long with TCG now?
Since about May last year. So.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And Jase, yourself, you've got an interesting story of what you were doing before and then now.
Yeah, so I'm ex-military. I got out in 2015. Got into crypto in about 2016, so just before the last bull run there. With all the icy hose and the pumps and everything. It was pretty crazy and wild. Good learning curve for myself. But then obviously 2018 came and everything just crashed. So funnily enough, I actually moved away from the crypto space for about 2 years almost. And in that time, I actually moved to Twitch because the crypto space was quite toxic and everyone was just depressed. And I wanted to get away from that. And I went into the gaming world of Twitch and started streaming. So I streamed quite a lot of games and ended up becoming a Twitch partnered streamer in that time as well, and quite a big following. And then about 2020, I think it was, there was quite a lot of, I was playing, I'm not going to say the games that I was playing, but I was playing a couple. And one of the main ones that got me to Twitch partnered streamer, there was a lot of duplication bugs and hacks and things like that. And I was a top level player, and you've got all these new players coming into the game that have got all the weapons you have, all the mats you have. They've got like better bases than you.
That's called cheating.
And it literally killed the game. And I was like, you know what, this is just, you know, it's not fun. It's not enjoyable anymore. It ruined it basically. But it was quite funny because then I went back into crypto just as crypto was starting to take off at the end of 2020. So I got into back into that, learned a lot from the previous bull run. And then came across TCG World, which was TCG coin at the time that was launching in May. And I had a fairly small sort of investment group of about 400 or 500 people. And we would scout a lot of projects because there were a lot of rugs and things like that at the time. So we used to vet quite a lot of them before we sort of promoted it within our group. And you can't catch them all, but obviously TCG coin at the time sort of caught my attention, promoted that within the group. We jumped on board, and then they announced that they were going to start developing a metaverse. And I'm like, wow, this is fantastic because of my background and everything. I could probably bring quite a lot to the table. And a couple of the mods that I'm really good friends with in real life actually approached me and said, hey, we can get you in touch with the CEO, have a meeting, you know, tell your story and your background and everything like that. And literally the rest is history, because I came on board, brought all my expertise to TCG World. The first thing I wanted to start pushing was the quality and targeting the gaming community, instead of, you know, a lot of the other metaverses at the time were just targeting the crypto space. I wanted to really push and drive the gaming side, so that, you know, even in a bear market, when people were sort of moving away from the crypto space, like what happened to me during the last you know, bear market, is create something where people can still, you know, be involved with crypto, and, you know, game, socialize and interact and all that. So that's what we're sort of building. Yeah, cool. And that's how I actually got into it. So,
and maybe your experience from having cheaters come in and quickly advance themselves up in the Twitch stream has helped you close those loopholes in this version.
It sort of really opened my eyes to the blockchain technology behind you know, a metaverse and what it actually means, and having everything on a smart contract or you know, the blockchain means that you can't duplicate items in game. And that's why I strongly believe that, you know, in 10-20 years time, every single game out there will utilize an NFT to prevent these duplication bugs and exploitations that completely ruin a game. Like I was playing almost daily, and went from playing daily to motivation just dissipated, and I just lost interest completely because there were too many new players coming into the game that had everything I had, that I'd been grinding for years.
They hadn't paid their dues.
No, exactly.
That's it. That sucks.
Just touched on a really important point though. Like if you think about when the internet came out, we didn't know what that type of technology would enable, right? No. And you know, the problems that, you know, when blockchain, I was working with a privacy company first up with blockchain, you know, Jase just identified another way that the blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs and the like can actually solve challenges that exist today because the existing technology wasn't advanced to solve it itself. And this is where I think it gets really exciting when you start talking about Metaverse 3.0, you know, NFTs. There are applications for this type of technology that we probably don't even know yet, but that can be enabled by it. And that's, you know, one of the things I think make things like metaverses and like TCG World places where more and more people are going to want to come live, work and play. So.
Okay, that's cool. Let's have a 30,000 foot view of this metaverse thing, because it's a terminology that has become exceptionally popular in the last 12 months. It's almost to the day in October last year that Facebook changed its name to Meta, which got a huge amount of press. In my opinion, a sort of smart play by those guys to actually try and control the space or take over the space and take up that popularity of the term metaverse. That's just my viewpoints here. So that came out. It created a huge amount of interest in the space. Because Rob and I are in the domain space, and there was a massive amount of people going around registering domain names that had the word meta, metaverse in, selling them for huge amounts of money. So I think the average person out there, like, we're close to this space. I'm not a gamer, but I invest in crypto in different areas, and I understand probably more than the average person does what this stuff is. But your average person, and to some listening to this, I'm going to you first, Lisa. What's your elevator pitch when someone says, "What's the metaverse?" What do you say to them?
Yeah, so look, I think this is probably just hit the nail on the head there. And I was explaining this before, that it is not an easy concept for people to understand if they've not been involved in it. And the way I guess a bit similar to how I spoke about Jase's example, the way I like to explain it is a metaverse is really a new and emerging technology that can bring different ideas to life. So whether that be, looking at running a business online, for example, or owning virtual land, or playing games in a different way, it's emerging technology that enables those things to be done in a different way. And one of the good examples I like to use as for an application, I guess, of a metaverse is, at the moment, if you're going, for the girls out there who are listening, or maybe the boys too, if you're going sort of clothes shopping, and you're browsing from site to site, you have to go to Nike, you have to go to Sports Girl, you have to go to, Super, whatever it might be. Each and every time, some of those places have virtual fitting rooms, for example, but each site is independent of each other. So every time you have to re-enter your details for delivery, re-enter your size measurements, re-enter all that different information. And it's not very immersive. It's very fragmented and, separate and apart. Imagine in a metaverse where you could build an avatar that has all your dimensions in it, has your looks, your feel about you, and walk through a virtual shopping mall and try all those different things on, and then get to the end of it, click a button and have them delivered like you would in a typical e-commerce situation. So
and knowing that they're going to actually fit.
Yeah, as long as you don't eat too much in between. But I think
good point.
When you start bringing that kind of concept and the application of the technology to life, it makes much more sense than saying a metaverse is some sort of virtual world, because a lot of people might not be something that interests them. It needs to have some utility to them, and some, I guess, really important connection back to real world as well. So I think that example explains that well.
Actually, that's a pretty good analogy. I haven't thought of it like that before, because some people think the metaverse is kind of like the new internet, but what you're explaining is there can be multiple metaverses, right? So, like TCG World is a metaverse. So in your shopping analogy, it's kind of like a shopping center can be a metaverse with 1,000 stores in it.
Well, exactly. You could
go to a different metaverse.
Well, I think and I'll probably get Jase to talk to this a bit more, but we could build a shopping center with 1,000 stores within TCG World. It would just be up to the brands to come on board. And like, we know that all the big brands have Web 3.0 like departments or teams set up already. I think what they're now seeing is that, projects like TCG World. You spoke about Meta before. When that announcement was made, we were already far ahead in our development, right? So it wasn't their timing that instigated our development. No, it was good timing for us because we'd already done a lot of development of the world. But
I think Ed mentioning that is when the mainstream kind of went, oh, what's going on? But we all know that they were late to the party in terms of the metaverse.
Oh yeah. They just hijacked it, in my opinion. But and that's all good. They hijacked it, but also put a spotlight on it too. So I think, it's a double-edged sword, the exposure from Meta / Facebook and Mr. Zuckerberg, because ultimately it created awareness. Whether it was the right awareness, the wrong awareness, that's always in dispute. and arguable for everyone's different opinions on that. But I think the fact that now there's probably millions more people who are aware that this is actually a thing, and it's developing. We're so early. Rob and I keep saying we're sort of like the equivalent of 1995 of the internet. It's like so early.
And that's why whenever you get asked the question, like I get asked it quite a bit, is where do you see the metaverse in 5-10 years time, and how is it going to impact everyday citizens around the world? And it's quite a very hard one to explain, because even when the internet of the early 1990s sort of came out, I couldn't even envision myself in high school at the time. Like, I was creating websites and learning HTML in high school. But even at that point, I couldn't quite grasp how the entire world would use it, because at the time, even going to businesses and saying, hey, I've got a project, I need to create a website, do you mind if I create a website for your business? And they're like, oh, what for? Like, is anyone going to even visit it? And what benefit does it have for us? And at the time, all I could say was, oh, it's good advertising. You've got a front shop on a website that people can go and visit. And that's all I could give, because I didn't know about the e-commerce side. You can put all your products for sale on the website and people can buy it and have it delivered to their home. I couldn't even comprehend that at the time. So when people ask me about the metaverse and where you see that in 5-10 years time, I cannot answer it honestly, because I don't really know. If you think about the neuron link, in 20-30 years time, eventually, we might even have a chip in our brains or something that connects to the metaverse, where you don't even have to actually put a headset on or jump on a computer. You could be walking down the street and literally have advertisements and stuff pop up in your cortex of the eye or in the back of the brain or something like that.
Sign me up.
And
where do I go, Jase, to get that?
Like if you can relate to you, Jase. You're a futurist. I think I am. It blows people's minds, right?
And when it comes to travel and stuff, like if you want to travel somewhere, you could literally just sit back in your chair, close your eyes, and virtually go there. That's how I envision it in 20-30 years time. So we need to build the world now.
But there's also another point to that, and this is where we talk about mainstream adoption, right? There are some people who are going to want full-on metaverse, everything virtual, sitting in your chair type thing. There are other people who, still have a very strong connection to the real world, but can have a metaverse experience that can enhance that, for example. So, I'm very big into war history, for one example, and like one of the things that we've sort of talked about is you could sort of go to like a former battlefield and have some type of holographic, projection or recreate like a battlefield within a metaverse and recreate that battle with the historical element to it as well. So there's both that sort of emerging types of uses and futuristic style thinking, but there's stuff that's happening now that could really enhance people's experience in the real world and the metaverse, if that makes sense.
Just touching on that as well, we had a fantastic, and this is one of the things I like about networking at conventions and things. You always come up with new ideas, and someone came up to me and was talking about how Amazon started off as basically an online bookshop. And how it grew. And then it got me thinking, imagine a library where all historical books that you're not allowed to actually physically touch or open because, they're that old. Imagine recreating a virtual historical book that's like thousands of years old that, you could literally just sit in your living room and turn the pages of and just, read. Something like that that's fully immersive, but also takes you back into history without actually damaging the current product. Like, you could imagine millions of people wanting to like grab a historic book, but it would just damage it.
Google's actually already done that. Well, in one way, Google has scanned some of the rarest books in the world for that reason, but they could combine what they've scanned with the metaverse to do that. So that's 100%. Probably, mate, you were spot on there. That is something that they could implement right now. Like, that's not 10 years away. That's done. But we're just not using it for that, but merge those two uses. I'd love to sit in a cozy library fireplace setting.
Wouldn't it be great?
with a 1,000-year-old book on my lap that I know is not going to disintegrate.
Exactly.
And I won't have to wear any white gloves in the metaverse either. So that'd be very cool. That's amazing. So I keep saying this all the time. I think the areas we're going into with metaverse is only going to be limited by our imagination as humans.
100%. Yeah.
Gee, that was gee, we're talking the same language. So because look at the internet, and Jase was spot on saying couldn't see the use cases of stuff back in 1995, 96, whenever it was. It's can you imagine if the internet got turned off now? The world would collapse. I mean, yes, obviously there's people that can survive, but it would absolutely
and I think that's why
the
the next big push will be the decentralized internet, decentralized storage, and all that, so that we've seen it time and time again when massive servers go out, it actually takes down big businesses that are on those servers because they're all centralized. So the next big wave will be that decentralized internet, decentralized storage, and then the metaverse will capitalize on that so that, if servers go down, you're not affected at all. Businesses will still operate.
And
cool.
Why, like, as I was talking about before, one of the most exciting things about TCG World is we've put so much time, effort, money, all that into the development of the metaverse. And I know when we were at the Australian crypto conference late last month, a lot of people were actually really surprised at how advanced and how developed it is, our product is at the moment.
So you guys had the biggest stall there as well. As soon as we walked in,
huge.
And no one had heard of us either, which is what we sort of kind of wanted, a big push once we had a product to showcase. There's nothing worse than, I guess, spending all this money without having something to show. But everyone absolutely loved it, jumping on the game and playing around and actually physically seeing the graphic quality of what a true metaverse will look like. So
right, someone's never heard of TCG World before. We've talked that it's based around a metaverse. It's a gaming platform. It's a combination of things. Who would be your typical user? Who would you say would be someone that comes in and starts using your product, and why are they coming to use your product? Who wants to take that one?
Lisa can take that one.
Okay, well, I think there's two ways to look at it, because I think now, as I was saying before, one of the reasons I'm on the team is I'm not your typical gamer, nor was I really, I was involved in blockchain, but not so much crypto. And so I think in terms of early adoption, because of the way TCG World's been set up, it will be that kind of gamer crypto audience. But as I was saying to you before, the more applications we can explain and bring to life for people, the more mainstream adoption is going to happen. And I guess a clear part of my role is also being able to clearly communicate that to people. But we already have 50,000 registered people who've registered through our website. I think we've got about 8,000 plot owners already, Jase, or thereabouts.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah, and we've got multiple partnerships and businesses who've already built headquarters within TCG World. So,
wow.
I think that's probably what really has surprised people who were hearing about us for the first time. We haven't spent, a whole lot of money on marketing, because our very much belief was that investing in the product first and then wowing people later with what had been done was a much better and much more authentic strategy. Because I always find this funny that, the whole decentral metaverse, everything is all about trust and trying to, eliminate that sort of absence of trust. But there's so many hypes in crypto, and that people are getting scammed and stuff. So to really cut through that, we've been really upfront, open, honest, really highly communicative with our community and delivered on our promises too. And now we're sort of at the stage where we're ready to go out and start, bringing many more people into, you know, what is a fairly good alpha version of the metaverse.
And I just want to touch on that as well, because you know, myself and Dave have been in crypto for so long. Dave's the CEO of TCG World, and it's quite interesting when you talk to people about TCG World, how we started. You know, we didn't start as a pump and dump, and we didn't spend a whole heap of marketing revenue and stuff on, you know, YouTubers and that are just going to pump it up. Because what happens is, and what I've seen in a lot of projects, which I didn't want happen to TCG World, is you might have 100,000 people come into the project really early on, but 95 to almost, you know, 98% of those people are just looking for a quick buck, you know, and then they're gone. So on paper, it looks great that you've got so many holders. But then all of a sudden, you know, none of them are utilizing your, you know, your project. They're not interacting on Telegram or socials or anything
and most
like that.
people come in and realize it's fluff.
Like,
There's not much going on. So then all those early people, they realize it's not ready, the timing's off, and they all bail, and that's when the whole project rugs. And then the developers and the owners go, well, this is a failure, and it basically ends.
Exactly. So what we've done is just grown organically, brought on a lot of partners with their communities, you know, networking and stuff like that. And then you come into our, you know, Telegram, and it almost feels like a community. Well, it is a community, because you've got people that are there, you know, constantly, daily, interacting. And if we get new people come in, then they sort of feel like they're a part of a family. And that's what we're sort of driving, so that when we grow, we've already got that, you know, community base there, ready to take more people and welcome more people on. So
yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Jase, because within like our chats and, you know, Discords, Telegrams, all that, to your point, Ed and Rob, a lot of those chats are like, you know, talking about price and things like that. We have a lot of discussions around, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to build in the metaverse? What are you most excited about? You know, when it came to creating like things like our creatures, our sprites and stuff like that, we, you know, talk to people about how would they want to name them and why, and what would be the story behind that. So it is sort of being led, you know, or a lot of the ideas are being generated from community, which I think, you know, also makes it a much better project, because it's not just about the hype, it's about the future of where TCG World's going to go.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
getting that community feedback as well is very important moving forward, because you want to feel like they're engaged in the project, and they have a say. So yeah, that's one thing we did very early on as well, is, you know, get feedback from the community. I'm always constantly listening to the community about, you know, what they find fun, enjoyable, and, you know, we've implemented quite a lot of things from community feedback. And I think a lot of projects do fail as well. And this is another thing that we were a little bit concerned about building a metaverse, because at the time we didn't really know what a true metaverse looked like. So getting that community engagement and feedback and that on how they've envisioned the world as well. Because if we build something and not get any community feedback, we could build it, and then all of a sudden the community rejects it and says, oh, that's not what we were sort of envisioning. And I think that's what's going to possibly lead to the failure of some of these big metaverses that are starting out, that have this big vision, and then all of a sudden, you know, they show a snippet of it and it's not what the community expected. Which is what happened with one of them recently. They showcased a little bit of the world, and everyone's like, what the hell is this? It looks like crap. So I'm not going to say any names, but yeah, I was even disappointed. But I think moving forward, a true metaverse is a decentralized metaverse that, you know, is community based. So having it centralized and controlled is moving away from the true vision of what a metaverse is. And I think any company that's moving towards a controlled, centralized metaverse will fail in the end.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
Lisa said some keywords before that I reckon would have triggered a lot of our newbie type people into metaverse in their brains to say, well, what's that? What's she talking about? Before, Lisa, you said you have around 8,000 plot owners. Now, people would be saying, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, what's a plot?
What's a plot?
Look, I've got to tell you, so when the TCG sort of first started selling land, it was actually my ex-husband at the time who started buying it, and I had no idea what he was doing. And I'm thinking, excuse me, but what an idiot. What are you going to be able to do with this? But it's, the way I really conceptualize it to people now is it's kind of a bit like buying a domain name in effect that you own an asset that you can then build something on. Right.
Yeah.
So to own a plot of land within TCG World, you're owning, a digital address, I guess you could call it, where you can then use that either to pass on and sell to somebody else. You might want to build a social aspect like a house or a mansion, or, Jase wants to build a farm, whatever it might be. Or you could build a business there too. So, we've got commercial plots within TCG World, which are absolutely massive. As I said to you before, Rob, they could house like 1,000 shop, type shopping mall. And so if you owned that plot, can you imagine the idea that I told you about at the start about having that avatar working through a virtual mall? That is a business idea, I think, is amazing, right? Would it take a while to bring to life? Of course. Are there complexities that need to be worked out? Like everything in life, that's always going to be the case. But that's where the value, I think, really comes from, that you have a digital address that you can actually then build something on that will then either generate revenue for you, whether it be through sales or whether it be through, ticket prices, if you've got a stadium or something. And it's also an asset that we've seen in other metaverses appreciate in value as well. So if you look back at some of the Decentraland plots, I think they were pennies to buy, and now some of them are going for millions of dollars, because people, the same way they saw it with domain names happening, the same, they increased in price because of the people's need to use them. I very much see plots in TCG World going the same way.
Well, that's literally what Ed and I are doing. This whole thing is called the Assets Show, and it's all about digital assets. So, I mean, we started off talking about domain names as digital assets. And when you buy a domain name, you own an address on the internet. Now we're talking about, plots of land and avatars and weapons in games and stuff. These are digital assets inside a particular metaverse. And as you mentioned before, Lisa, like with Decentraland, and there's Otherworld or something from
Sandbox
and Sandbox and TCG World. For digital asset investors that watch this show, if you want a diverse portfolio of digital assets, like Ed and I, you as a digital asset investor, you're buying domain names as investments. You're buying plots of land in TCG World. You're kind of investing in a bunch of stuff and knowing that 60-70% of them aren't going to work out. But imagine if you don't buy a plot of land in TCG World and it becomes one of the top couple of metaverses down the track.
I'd say to that too, Rob, as well. Like, obviously there are people who want to just invest in the asset and hoping that it will appreciate. What I'd encourage anyone who's buying a plot of land, in TCG World, perhaps any other metaverse, but TCG, we would definitely want you to see you there, is not just to think of it as something that you just leave as a latent asset. There really is, and like if I bought a plot of real property in Sydney, right, that's going to be worth some type of money. But if I build, a house on that, it automatically becomes more valuable.
We can relate that back to domain names. If you just buy a domain name, it'll be worth 10 grand. But as Ed always says, you can build a hot dog stand or a skyscraper on that. And then it's worth a lot more. So the same with what you're saying about TCG World.
Absolutely. And if you go to a revenue generating business, not only are you having a land value that you can sell from a digital asset perspective, you're also got a revenue generating business, which you can also, trade and sell as well. But I think the other great thing about TCG World, and Jase, you might want to jump in here in case I get the tech wrong, pretty much everything that can be bought in game is an NFT. You're actually building your digital asset portfolio the more you play the game too. And some of those things can be really rare. So we've got different levels of rarities of items and creatures and things like that, which, to any gamer, even somebody who doesn't really game, but, once played Pokemon for 2 years straight, Shouldn't be admitting that. And the rarity of things is always very attractive. But in this space, unlike in, say, a Pokemon situation, there is a marketplace and there is a value place behind them where you can actually trade it for, real world rewards, whether that be crypto or converting that back to fiat, to real money.
Okay, so before I go on, Jase.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on the business side that Lisa sort of focuses on with our virtual LAN. When someone that doesn't have any interest in, I guess, building a business or earning revenue or something, a lot of them say, well, what's the point of having this virtual LAN? And yeah, it can appreciate in price, but I always say to people, how many NFT, images or collections do you have in your wallet? And a lot of them say, oh, quite a lot. I've built up quite a collection. And I'm like, wouldn't it be great to showcase that in your house? That your friends can go visit and see them on the wall as you walk around. And they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even think of that. Instead of just being in a wallet that people see as, you're just searching Google image search engine or something like that. It doesn't really have that interactivity, but, going to a physical house in the virtual world and actually seeing them on display, it gives a new dynamic to your NFT collection, so you can really showcase them in a different way.
Yeah, and to do that, technologically wise, are we literally talking about virtual reality?
I might just answer this one quickly because I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. There's some technology at the moment, like VR or AR, that will easily slot into the metaverse world, but it's not required at the moment.
No.
So if you don't want to wear a headset or don't want to, there's still things that the metaverse can deliver for you, right? And I think that's a really important point because, whilst I know some of us, even on the podcast here today, are futuristic, some of us aren't that advanced, and we don't want what I guess was intimidating to me about the metaverse was thinking that it had to be that extreme, or
the VR sort of side. So when we started building the world, we wanted to build it more like a familiar, I can't even get the word right now. We want it to become familiar to the gaming community by having a loadable game that they can play on their PC. So that was that's the main reason why we launched our Unity engine with a loadable game that's still tied to the blockchain, so that any gamer will feel familiar with it. They'll load it up and it'll just be like any other game. And then we'll have the add-on, with the VR and everything, that if you want to chuck on a VR headset, then you can, but it's optional. I think having it as an option is a lot better than forcing it upon people that then limits your audience,
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that, and this is probably something that people who are not familiar with Metaverse or Web3 or NFTs, you can use the same way you use the internet. You can use a metaverse like TCG World in a way that suits your purposes. So it might be that you want to do your online shopping there, and as I said, the virtual avatar, I just love that idea because I am the worst when it comes to ordering clothes online. And even if they don't fit, I end up keeping them because I just hate the returns process. It's really a big thing for my life. But it could also be that if you look at COVID, post-COVID, a lot of universities, for example, are still doing online lecturing, and a lot of the students that I've spoken to, aren't 100% in or 100% out. But what they do miss is that sort of sitting next to someone, or actually being able to visualize and see beyond a two-dimensional picture, some of the stuff they're working with, whether it be in a lab or whether it be with art and things like that. Using this, metaverse technology like TCG World, you have the opportunity to really make those experiences a lot better. And one of the key elements of that means some experiences that would never be accessible to some people become accessible. And I think that's, one of the really exciting parts about how metaverse technology could really change the future in that way as well.
So TCG World was started in the Netherlands, correct?
Yes, in 2021 in May, I think it was. So.
2021. Okay. Because I'm looking at, and maybe Rob, if you can get it up, the tc.world.
TCG.world.
TCG.world.
There it is.
There it is. And go to the more and then click on about us. Because I just want to scroll down and I think the likeness there of, if you keep going down a bit, Rob, you'll see Jase, and Jase pretty much looks like him in the real world. I think that's pretty good. Hairstyle pretty spot on. Yeah, I would say that's
just missing the headset.
no headset. Are you on here anywhere, Lise?
No,
no. Okay, well,
not yet.
I borrow everybody else's instead. So.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd be wearing gear like Artem wears, the web and blockchain. That's cool.
That's cool. So I think this is the interesting thing is, and we're not going to go through the whole website, but people can go and check it out. But if you want to start getting involved in this, go to the website, and there's like buy land we're looking at right now. It's just a case of clicking on the button. What crypto do you take to purchase land?
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit more, actually. So people go tcg.world. How do they technically buy land? Do they need a metaverse wallet?
Yeah,
I mean, a MetaMask wallet. I'm getting
currently you will need a MetaMask wallet or a trust wallet. So they're pretty simple to set up. Just make sure, please, whatever you do not give your seed phrase out at all. If anyone asks for it, they're scamming you. So be very cautious of that.
Yeah.
Security is a huge thing. So we always push that, if you do set up a wallet, keep that seed phrase only that you can access. But yeah,
too true.
To purchase and stuff like that at the moment, it'll be MetaMask. Eventually, what we will do is have it fully integrated into our game, where we'll have our own wallet within the game, so that it feels like any other game you're playing right now, and you don't actually see the crypto side or the blockchain side. You'll just play the game. You'll buy your virtual tokens from within the game using a credit card. There'll be a fiat on ramp, and it'll just feel like, you're purchasing in-game tokens, and the in-game assets that you're buying will feel like, any other game that you're purchasing in-game items with. So you won't actually feel that the crypto side of it, and that's where we'll eventually move forward with that technology.
And I think that's a really good point, Jase, because even though I don't consider myself a gamer per se, I have played some of those sort of little games on my mobile and stuff like that, where I've wasted loads of money buying coins or like items for that type thing. So that's actually, when we're talking about mass adoption, that's the scenario that lots of people are familiar with. And one of the things that TCG World is wanting to do is make that very seamless. But the difference between, the crappy little games that I've played and wasted loads of money on and TCG World is when you own that asset, you'll be able to sell it on if you no longer have it.
It's a tangible asset that,
NFTs, right?
It's not just, they're not just stuck in the game. Like, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on some of the big games, just in-game assets. And once they create a new game, then you kind of just leave all those assets behind. And there's still new players coming in and playing the old games. So it would be great to offset, sell a lot of those assets you're not playing anymore. Let the new players that are coming in enjoy it, get an item at quite a reasonable price, and then you can start using the funds for a new game that you want to play. So with the metaverse, the beauty of it is, if an item you've had for a couple of years, you're like, oh, you know what, I really like this new item that's just popped up in the item shop, but I don't have enough funds for it. You can sell a few of the old assets that you don't need anymore to purchase that new one, instead of having to fork out of your own funds. So
it's good. It's a lot more flexible with the current Web 2, we'll say Web 2 version of gaming. So that's cool. So look, I would suggest, because we're running out of time, I would suggest if you haven't seen or been to TCG World, go and check it out. TCG.world. Go and sign. Does it cost anything to sign up just to get an account?
No.
Okay. So you can just go and sign up, get an account, watch some of the videos they've got on the site, get familiar with it, and you've got nothing to lose to go and.
So go to tcg.world. You need to register. You need to have a MetaMask wallet, and me and Ed did a video about 10 videos back on how to set up a MetaMask wallet. So go and do that. Connect it to this, and then go in and explore the TCG World Metaverse.
And guys, I'd really encourage anyone watching or listening to join our Telegram in particular, or some of our other social channels. We have regular AMAs, and we're often holding plot giveaways or other giveaways of different NFTs within TCG World. And as Jase said before, we're a very friendly, welcoming community, and it's actually, a good place to sit around and chat. If you're wanting to meet some new people as well.
Great.
Awesome.
Just one more thing to mention. So all plot owners also have current access to the alpha version too. And that's not the demo version, that's the actual alpha of the game. So if you buy a plot, silver plots are 1 BNB at the moment. That's the currency that we accept them in. And that will give you full alpha access to the current version ahead of the rest of the communities.
Wow.
Okay. So 1 BNB, so Binance,
1 Binance coin.
Binance coin. Cool.
Big.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for coming on. It was great having you on. I know we've only just scratched the scratch of all this, but it was sort of an introduction into the metaverse. And I thought, well, who better to have on than TCG World and you guys. So thanks for spending the time.
No worries. Thank you.
Loads of news coming up too, loads of really exciting things. So we'll stay in touch, and we'll let you know.
Please.
We've got some more to share.
You'll see me in there, because I'm going to get a virtual piece of land. I'm going to build that hot dog stand, and I'm going to trade with that hot dog stand, make a lot of money, and then build a skyscraper on that very same piece of land, just to demonstrate what I've been talking about for years.
Australian dream, but realize
that's it. That's it. So, all right, guys. Thanks to everyone for listening. If you haven't already, please like this if you've enjoyed it, and follow us on YouTube and Spotify, etc. We'd appreciate your eyeballs and I'm going to say earballs, but that's not right. But you know what I mean. Thanks for listening. Thanks guys for coming on. Be safe.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon. Bye for now.
See ya.